Yeah, I was born on the 12th of June 1930, Wallsend. I lived in Nelson Street, just up from the fire station. I had two sisters. My father was an ambulance officer, worked for the state. He was stationed at Hamilton. And I went to the primary school up on the hill, St Pat's, and we never had any sports days like the public schools, but I don't know, I suppose I'd be about 8 or 9, and that's probably when I thought about football, because we walked out the playground and looked down the hill. There was Crystal Palace ground, you know, and they still played football during the war, and Reggie Date and Alfie Krill was the top players in Wallsend, and Wallsend was buzzing with football because of them, you know, and of course he had a lot of good players with him too, you know. So that's where I thought of football. But what triggered me further was, as I told you before, walking down the hill of a Friday afternoon. That's when the public schools had their sport, Friday afternoon. And when I was walking down from school down the hill to Nelson Street, I saw those two boys, young boys, walking up the hill with the red shirt, white shorts, red socks, top socks, and that really, I said to myself, I'd love to wear those one of these days, you know. And from then on, Graham, I still wanted to play football, but just as enjoyment. So that's what really happened in the younger days. And Mr. Finley, Bill Finley, was a school teacher at Plattsburgh, and he got the job as manager of the under-14s. And so I went down to Crystal Palace, where he was, and other players went down there, and he had to join up. And he said, oh yeah, he said, and where would you like to play? I said, I'd like to play inside forward or centre forward, like Reggie Date or Alfie Quill. It was a big dish, wasn't it? So anyway, we had a trial, and anyway, we had to play our first game was at Adamstown Oval. We had to play Adamstown under 14s. So I went to the dressing shed and I was getting changed, and he came up and he says, Bill, he said, mate, he said, we haven't got a goalkeeper. I said, oh, yeah. He says, the boys say you go all right in goals. Oh, I do, you know, when we're having a bit of a kick-up, you know. He says, well, look, he said, how about helping us out today? I said, all right, Mr. Finley. I says, I'll help you out today, providing I play out in the field next week. Yes, right. So, okay. We played a 1-1 draw. And I was happy with the game. So anyway, the next week, I don't know who we played, but came out to the dressing shed and he says, Bill, he said, you know, you had a good game last week. I said, oh, fair enough, I suppose, I don't know. He says, I think you'd be a good goalkeeper. I says, oh, I don't know, I don't like goalkeeping. And he says, well, look, we haven't got a keeper. He says, they're hard to get. I said, well, well, if I play, I says, you know, I might want to continue playing there. Well, he says, play this week, he says. So, all right, so I played that week, and I can't remember who we played, but anyway, that was the end. I was between the two posts for the rest of my life, so that's how I ended up playing goals. Oh, well, I mean, I used to enjoy it, you know, like even when I was practising outside Crystal Palace. I did like it, you know, throwing myself around, so that's how I became a keeper. When I reached seniors, I was working then, and I didn't knock off till 4 o'clock it didn't knock off till about 4:30, 4:45. And by the time I got home and I went down to the Crystal Palace, it would be 5 o'clock. 20 past 5, it was completely dark. And so I didn't have much practice as goalkeeper, But the other players, the ones that worked in the mines, they knocked off at 3 o'clock. They could get down there at 4 o'clock and they'd have at least an hour's training, But no, never had any coaches, not as a goalkeeper. When I went to Adamstown, Warren Overy was his reserve grade goalkeeper, and I got pretty friendly with him. And at the start of the season, I used to go down there, and Warren used to come with me, and we used to train together, kicking the ball, throwing the ball, making you dive, and up in the air, and all. That's the only training. That's what I used to do at the start of every season. The only time I wore gloves was when it was wet, and they were woolen gloves. And the first time I wore them, and they got saturated, they'd come out from your end of your fingers. So I decided then I'd cut the ends off so that I could feel the ball with my fingers. So things like that. I always wore shin pads. I always wore ankle guards and ankle bandages. The old Dingy O'Brien was coach one year. That was Jackie's father, and he told me to wear ankle bandages, But it helped me, and I think I only had one injury with one of my ankles, and that was at training at Adamstown when I didn't have any bandages on. So I didn't worry about them at training, So, and I wore shin pads naturally, but apart from that was it. No, none of those big gloves they got today. Yeah, I can remember it. I had a friend, a mate of mine, that lived up the back of my place, and we made arrangements to go out to Cardiff on the Saturday night to see some friends out there. And I said anyway, I think I said around, come down about 7 o'clock or something. So anyway, he was walking down the hill and I saw him come down. I went out on the footpath and waited for him, and anyway, we just started to walk down the hill, and it was only, about 7 or 8 yards. Next minute I heard this voice yell out, "Billy!" And I turned around, she said, it was my sister, she said, "You've been picked to go to South Africa." I said, "Oh God." So I ran up inside to the wireless, and I just missed I notified the team apparently and said I just missed out, but it was really great feeling, because I didn't expect it, and I knew that I might have had a chance, I don't know, but I didn't think that I would have got the position. But yeah, it was the most exciting thing of my life, that's for football-wise anyway. Norm was more experienced than me, naturally, and I can say it now, but I couldn't at the time. I wish I'd have had another full season out here. I think, but I enjoyed the games. Games I played in, we only got beat once, but and that was a game that I got a fairly big write up about. We played Natal at Peterborough, and the first game against Natal was down in Durban, and Australia got beat 2-1, we got beat 3-2 up in But I enjoyed the games, Graham, and as I said, I would like to play it in probably one of the tests, or one of the big games. The big games was Cape Town, West Province, Northern Transvaal, Southern Transvaal. They were the top teams in those days. I did play against Western Providence in the last game. We ended up playing a 3-all draw in that one. Well, we had a South African trainer and a South African manager. And Tommy Jack was our coach, because he played over in Scotland and he played the third back game, and we'd never played the third back game. Mm-hmm. So he was our coach on that.
Can you just explain the third back game? Because in those days you had your two fullbacks, yes, and a centre half.
Yes.
And so he introduced something different, didn't he?
Yeah, well, the centre half in my day was a roving centre half that roved around the centre of the ground and up and back. Well, when Tommy there, he moved that roving centre half to the third back, 3 backs. And he said, I remember him saying, coaching the boys, now, I won't be leaving this position. He said, I won't be running out if the winger's on its own. No way. That's your job. That's the full-back's job. He says, I'm not leaving here. And he never did. Because he was good in the air, good anticipation, good play. I became Sydney Moore and Herald Best and Fairest judge. And I remember there was a game at Adderstown, and Ray Bartz and Bunny, they were playing for New Lambton juniors, and they went up to Maitland and played up there when the Pommy goalkeeper, he was the coach. Anyway, they came back and they was playing with Adderstown, and I was the best and fairest judge. And I don't know, I went into the game, I went into the dressing shed, and I went up to Ray and I said, son, I think you're going to be a pretty good footballer. And I don't think I picked him, but I don't know, but I remember saying that to him. And yeah, I did that for a few years. Miles Hay was the chap here that used to run it. And then I got on the federation then. Just like playing, and I enjoyed it. And, you take the bad times with the good times, you can't have good times all the time. But, no, I enjoyed my career,
Can you believe it's 70 years ago?
Yeah, long time ago. Yeah. Well, that's good, Graham.
Thanks, Bill.
Memories, history.
It is. It is.